Welcome, everybody, to Education Reclaimed, a podcast for teachers looking to reclaim their passion in education. Presented by the amazing people at Live Bearded.
Welcome back to Education Reclaimed, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your hosts, Chad Pettit.
And I'm Brett Colley.
And I am super excited today because I get to interview Brett.
Hey!
I hope you got your interview shoes on, buddy, because we're going in.
I'm not wearing shoes, so country boy it up.
Me either. Yeah, shoes are optional today. All right. Yeah. Are you going shoes off because you've been like buried in film and getting ready for the football season?
Bro, I'm going to be posting a TikTok a little bit later that's literally going to have YouTube recording stuff here, Huddle, which is my football stuff here, and then my teaching stuff on my other monitor, and go, tell me you are taking on too much without telling me you're taking on too much, but still having fun while doing it.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, Brett actually lives in a computer monitor. He has the setup of all setups. I've got like a junky table in the corner of a room. He's got like streaming channels and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I did, during COVID, I had to find a little bit of something to pass the time. So I did a little bit of streaming on Twitch and then found out how absolutely repugnant a lot of the people on Twitch are. And I'm like, I'm done with this.
Really?
Oh,
really?
The toxicity is just so bad.
Is it young people? Is it old people? Is it a mixture?
It's the young gaming community. I mean, there's a lot of really fun Twitch channels out there that do like live podcasts and stuff. And they get a lot of good people in. They have great moderators who filter through the BS. But, I was playing Call of Duty with my friends, and that's just toxic nature at its finest. So I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah, nobody needs that. Like you're supposed to be there to relieve stress. It's supposed to be something fun, connecting with friends, and then people get in there, just got to ruin it for everybody.
Absolutely. Ugh. So how you been, man?
I'm doing pretty good. So I start not tomorrow because that's Sunday, but Monday we start with students. I've been back I'll edit that out. So I start back on Monday. We've been back 2 weeks for in-service. 2 weeks of in-service, folks. But I'm excited. I actually got to see some students this week. We had our open houses and orientations, and they're going to be in there on Monday, so I'm pumped.
Nice. I get to see some kids, not kids I'm teaching, but my high schoolers, because football officially starts on Monday. So we got a nice team meeting with gear handout for the freshmen and sophomores, and then practice starts on Wednesday.
Nice. And the weather's decent up there for football, I'm thinking, right? Compared to down here in the blistering South?
Yes. I mean, the last few weeks has been pretty warm for, the Pacific Northwest. People up here, it's weird. It's hit and miss on the people you find who are able to handle the heat. But the humidity out here isn't as bad as some places. Like I know down in Texas or on the East Coast, it's really bad. Humidity sucks. But up here, it just makes it uncomfortable. Today, however, I went outside and overcast, cloudy, windy, looks like it's going to storm. I'm like, it was 85 degrees yesterday and it's barely going to crest 68 today. I'm like, that's interesting.
That's nothing to be upset about. What are your responsibilities? Like, what's your official title as football coach?
I am the D-line coach. So I coach those nasty, mean, ugly, angry guys up front who are trying to get to the ball as best as possible. So, no, I love it. And then I don't know what my other official title is, but I'm the guy who wears the headset on the field and I call in the plays. So I get to wear special gloves so they can see me across the field. And I get to call in the play that's relayed from our defensive coordinator.
Oh wow! So I've always seen those guys on the side of the on the sidelines and in the booth, and I always thought to myself, that's got to be the most stressful job in the middle of a game. To me, it takes a person who's just like really quick thinking. Is that you? Is that like have your teaching skills helped you with that?
Yes and no. So varsity level, I don't know if I could actually do the play calling yet. But I am also the co-C team head coach, so our young boys, and I focus on the defense there. And my defense last year, our team went 6-1. The one we're not going to talk about, I'm still bitter about that one. And we only allowed, I want to say, in those 7 games, 7 touchdowns.
Really?
My defense, actually, we shut out the first 2 teams we played.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and I get to go down as one of the first coach in 20 years to beat our crosstown rival team.
Nice.
So I'm like, I mean, I could retire on that. But
Yeah, you should just ride off into the sunset. Is there like a rock you can paint or something like that?
I wish. But so to answer your question, the younger kids are a little bit easier because we're still learning together. But when you got the lights on you, the Friday night lights, and it's blaring down on you, and you've got, I mean, you're really trying to push these kids to get to the playoffs. And I sit there and I'm like, I don't think I could do this quite yet. So I'll let the guy up in the booth get it. And it gets stressful. I mean, even for me, because I got to watch my front 4 guys and I got to make sure they're doing what they're doing. And I'm cycling everybody in and out from a field level, which can be very, very difficult. And then my offensive or defensive coordinator and my safeties coach, they've been coaching together forever. So I call them mommy and daddy are fighting and they'll argue while I'm sitting there going, I need to send it in the play. Stop arguing. I need to send it in the play. But it's fun. I love it, dude. This will be my 3rd year at this high school that I'm coaching. And nice. It's so much fun. It's an absolute
I could
blast.
tell. I mean, you lit up right away as soon as we started talking about it, and you went right into it. You can get somebody on a subject. I found this in writing. Here's a little tip for our listeners: if you are struggling with teaching writing, if you can get somebody talking about something they're passionate about, they will never run out of things to write about.
No.
And the way you just took off just now and started talking about breaking things down, and it was like you could imagine yourself on the field, like you were picturing it as you were talking about it, and I could sort of picture it. And I love seeing people doing things they're passionate about, which leads me to my first question for you. Teaching. So
Yes.
You have not always been a teacher. If I understand correctly, you were in retail for what, 14 years?
Right around 14 years, yeah. So I started school to go into teaching. My father was a teacher, and I really looked up to my dad. And so I started school, didn't do well. Academics wasn't really my strong suit, at least not 20 years ago. And left there and jumped into the retail field. So, working at Michael's on the sales floor. Then I upgraded, started selling cars. I sold Harleys. I worked for cell phone companies. I worked for the retail division of Microsoft. And then I met my wife and we were tired of not having the same schedule. And, she had her summers off. I was constantly working during the summers and moving around in different states, different cities, and it wasn't fun anymore. And so I had a brief stint for a year that I worked as a paraeducator, and she's like, hey, there's a job opening up and I'm ready to go. I said, okay, let me apply. So I applied and interviewed and got the job, and then got back into education. And that really rekindled my passion for teaching. So I went back in, finished my degree, and graduated in 2019 and had a job offer at the district that I was working in already before I even graduated.
Man, I love it. That is a story. That's the stuff that makes good movies right there. That's when we talk about the American lifestyle, the American dream. We're not talking about picket fences, folks. We're talking about pursuing things you're passionate about. And it sounds to me like you had the sales chops. If you can sell Harleys and cars, and you can work for companies like Microsoft, then clearly you have the chops. And you could have gone even further up that ladder, but you chose to go a totally different direction and pursue education. And what was that first job that you took as a teacher?
So I was offered a special education math job at a middle school. So I would be working with. So in my district, we have three different, and I hate using the word classifications, but it's just what it is to help better position them for success within their programs.
Sure.
We have students who are severely impacted by their disabilities. So that would be, students with Down syndrome, with who are on the spectrum for autism, but are severely impacted by it. So nonverbals, um, and the list keeps running. And then we have that's called our functional skills and academics class. Then you have our mid-level program. These are our moderately impacted students who need that extra help, but aren't as severely impacted. So they actually, the way our district runs it, they spend more time in the general education setting than our students in the FSA classroom. Um, and then you have Learning Center. These students are, your typical kids anymore nowadays. ADHD, autism spectrum disorder on the higher functioning end of that, who need some more individualized supports than just say a standard gen ed kid, but they spend the majority of their day with their gen ed peers. They may have one or two little small pull-out classes for specialists like math or English, but other than that, they're fully included, and that's the group that I got to work with.
Yeah. And you did that, and then you transitioned to now you're working as a social studies teacher in the gen ed area, right?
Yep. Last year I started in as a sixth grade ancient histories teacher, which is the dream for me. History was the dream. And the job, and you can attest to this. English, social studies, those teachers are there until they retire and or are yanked out by the state. Because once you get into those jobs, those people are passionate about what they do.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to come by those. And one opened up. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to throw my name into the ring. I know I've only, taught for 2 years during COVID. But it's worth it. Let's see what happens. Threw my name in the ring and got hired last year. So I did ancient history last year, and dude, it was just an absolute blast. I do miss some of the aspects of special ed. I will tell you, I do not miss the paperwork.
Sure.
No, not at all. But as a special ed teacher, you do get more almost one-to-one interaction with specific students, whereas a gen ed teacher, sadly, you're pulled in so many different directions that you can't necessarily get that one-on-one time.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know about everybody else, but I can definitely say there are a lot of people out there that enjoyed watching your ride as you became that history teacher, because you made the mistake, my friend, of posting all about it on social media, and you became one of the most viral TikTok teachers. So how did it feel to go from having around 3,000 followers to like 100 and something thousand followers in a couple weeks, and one of the most viral videos of kids making sheep noises?
Goat
Noises.
It was a goat.
Yes.
It was a goat. Dude, I still, like, we just hit 6 million views on that just the other day. My wife's like, that video's at 6 million. I'm like, wow. Okay. That is a lot of views. And look, I started TikTok on a dare from one of my sixth graders when I first started. I used to make fun of kids. I'm like, there's no renegading in this class. There's, and I used to bring up all the little different trends that were there. Because, of course, I had downloaded TikTok and was watching TikToks over COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, you'll never get 1,000 followers. Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then flash forward, a year and a half later, I first period make this video with with my kids. First thing in the morning, having fun with them, and I posted on April Fool's Day. When I get to work, I posted on April Fool's Day, roll into work about 6:30, post the video. go about my day. I don't get great service. I get a bar if I'm lucky, and then of course the Wi-Fi that we're able to connect to doesn't allow certain things like TikTok. So of course I can't check my TikTok throughout the day, which is fine. I got to focus on my work. And at the end of the day, I had to run down to the office, talk with a counselor and my admin, and then I left my cell phone up in the room. Get back to my room. I have like 4 missed phone calls on my work phone, a couple text messages, and calls on my cell phone from my wife. So my wife and I, we have this thing. Call once, no call back, you're fine. Call a second time, call me back right now.
That's
So
the
I'm
911 call.
That's the 911. I'm like, so who died? So I call her and I'm like, what's going on? Is everybody okay? Blah, blah, blah. And she goes, oh, yeah, no. Have you looked at your TikTok recently? I said, no. She goes, it's blowing up. Like, it's at like, I want to say it was already at over 100,000 views by the end of the day.
Yeah, I remember that day.
And I'm like,
remember
no,
that day. It was
no.
huge.
It blew up, but I was like, you're lying to me. I'm not listening to you. You're lying to me. It's April Fool's Day. Whatever. Go out to my truck at the end of the day. Pull up my TikTok. 220,000 views. Just in a span of about 45 minutes. So April 1st, I started with 3.8 thousand followers. And at the end of April, I was at like 116.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was the most ridiculous thing ever to see happen. I was just having fun with my kids. I was just doing what I do every day. Throw out little jokes, make them laugh. They make me laugh. But that video just absolutely went bananas.
Yeah, because I remember you and I had kind of connected over the infamous flare pins wars.
Oh, the flare pin war of 2022.
Yeah, and so we're just having fun, having a good time. Both of us pretty much low views. Nothing really happening. And then I'm sitting at a restaurant, and you messaged me in TikTok and said, "Dude, my TikTok is blowing up," and I'm thinking, oh, a couple thousand views, and I look and I'm like, million, what? It was just skyrocketing. It's just so crazy. But if people think that's crazy, but you and I have talked about when your TikTok was really taking off, when mine was really taking off. And if you're not following Mr. Colley, the Mr. Colley on TikTok, please go follow him. I love his stance on Indian bullying and his 1-minute history lessons and all sorts of great things he's doing. Always a positive vibe. The Mr. Colley on TikTok. But when you were taking off on TikTok and I was taking off on TikTok, nobody knew that behind the scenes, you and I were both individually kind of dealing with some things.
Oh boy.
So I've talked a lot about my mental stress that I was dealing with.
Right.
But you're carrying a heavy load, my friend, in terms of chronic pain. And I just want people to realize that sometimes what you see on camera is not totally reflective of what's going on in a person's life. Not that you're fake or anything like that. You're very sincere in your videos, but you were dealing with some really hard things.
Yeah, I playing sports in high school, blew out both my knees. So I suffer from severe, debilitating osteoarthritis in both of my knees, and it's painful. And for the longest time, I've been able to deal with pain for a very, very long time. And when I get into extreme pain, I get very, very sick, nauseous, and just, I struggle. And it makes it hard to do things like getting out of bed, trying to stand and realizing, oh, my legs quite aren't there yet. And then going into work and working with kids or coaching football or when I was coaching baseball. You don't want them to see you at that vulnerable state very often, at least in my opinion, right? Because you still want to keep that kind of shroud of mystery a little bit, in my opinion. And so you go in, you put on, I don't want to say the mask, but it is a mask. I'm able to mask what I'm dealing with a little bit more. to get through the day, because I still want to enjoy what I do, and sitting with my sixth graders and laughing and teaching them about ancient history. I can forget about my pain for a while
Mhm.
and then move on from that. But it's tough. I mean, it keeps me up at night. It makes it hard for me to do things with my wife. I mean, coaching this year was almost not going to be a thing. Because, I've moved, it's progressed to the point where, I want to go long distances. Now I have to have a mobility scooter. Um, and that was a tough pill to swallow,
Yeah.
but I'm able to get out and do more things and continue to do the things that I love. And it doesn't put me in pain by doing these things. So it's tough. I mean, it wears on you.
Yeah. But, the whole premise behind the show is reclaiming what we can one step at a time. And, you're giving up those long walks with your wife. You're giving up the football. You're giving up all these things. And you got to a point where, no, I'm not going to give them up. Maybe I don't have them in the same way. I'm going to reclaim them. And so you got that mobility scooter. And I know that is a major, you say it's a tough pill to swallow. That's one of those things. You're like, man, how do I confront this? How do I deal with this? It's a switch.
Right.
It's the new normal, right? And
Right.
hopefully it's not going to be your normal for long. Hopefully you're going to get the surgeries you need, and that's going to be taken care of. But what I admire about you is, if you hadn't told me that, I never would have known,
Yeah.
because you are constantly positive, not in a toxic way. You just choose to focus on what you can control. And obviously you have your times when you're down and you're just like, I'm done. But what you give to other people is your best. All that going on with you, and y'all, listen, this man is constantly texting me to check on me. He's in excruciating pain, and he's messaging me to see how I'm doing. That's just the kind of man he is. So I've never met Brett in person, but he is one of the truest people I've met in my life.
I
And he's a
appreciate that.
person. Yeah, it's 100% from the heart, man. I look up to you in a big way. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about this giant elephant in the room of public education right now. Because it's important. And with your
It is.
perspective from a social studies teacher, someone who is, not fresh out of college, you've got life experience, and you're a rational thinker, and you've learned to look at things from other people's perspectives. And so I wanted to get your insights into this big elephant in the room of critical race theory. First of all, is it a thing that we teach in K-12 schools? And I will say no. By definition, critical race theory is a college level and an advanced college level theory.
Absolutely.
Right. Now, there is some confusion that some of the things that are being taught in schools are a form of critical race theory. And I think what we're not able to do is have this conversation because we want to put everything in these perfect binary slots. Like, no, it either is or it isn't. And I think what the fear is on the outside is that we're teaching certain things or approaching certain subjects in a way that is a form of critical race theory. And if you don't know what critical race theory, it's basically dealing with systemic racism, and it's a way of looking at the world and seeing the influences of race and discrimination and how they've impacted the world. That's not the focus of the show. The focus of the show is that has impacted public education in a major way.
Yeah.
So laws are being passed, books are being removed from shelves, textbooks are being taken out of the school. You as a social studies teacher, sitting on the front lines of how are we going to address the statues in this park? How are we going to address the Black Lives Matter protests? How are we going to tell the story of 2020, January 6th? Where are you at with some of this stuff?
I think one of the biggest words that gets kicked around out here, at least in my state, and Washington State teachers, if you're listening to this in Washington on YouTube, feel free to correct me. But I think one of the biggest words that derives from CRT is indoctrination, and a lot of the reasons why we're seeing books, whole pieces of curriculum being rewritten, is because there is a fear that teachers are coming in with a biased overview of what is happening or what has happened. And the fear is that there are teachers who are pushing their personal agenda within the classrooms. Now, can I say beyond a shadow of a doubt that doesn't happen? Absolutely not. I know I don't do it. Now, your question, how do we combat that? Well, one of the ways to combat that, especially in the social studies aspect, when you're teaching history, there's no room for personal bias in history because you're teaching factual evidence. You're showing, hey, look, 5,000 years ago, these nomadic farmers in modern day Iran were tired of having to chase their food and not have enough plants to really sustain life, that they settled down between the Tigris and the Euphrates River, and they became the very first civilization, Mesopotamia as we know it. That's fact. You can't push away from that. Now, that's how you beat it, in my opinion. And that's how I'm going to beat it, because my opinion as to what happened in history doesn't matter. What happened in history is what matters. History is to help us as a society better identify ways to make ourselves better. And so teaching anything but fact is going to skew that. So I make sure that no matter what I teach, it's all fact-based. A kid will ask me, what do I think about something here, there, and if I'm able to swing it in a way that isn't just, dripping with my own weight on it, then I'll talk about it. But I try to keep it just to the facts. Just the facts, man.
Just the facts, man. Yeah, and I think that is definitely the approach most educators are taking. But you said something that's honest and it's open, and it's can we say beyond a shadow of a doubt that there are not teachers pushing a personal agenda? No. And this is where, if you look on social media and if you have conversations with educators, there's two sides, two takes on this. One is no one's indoctrinating at all. No one has a personal agenda. So don't even do that. You're just feeding the narrative. The other side is, well, no, there are some people who are, every cliche, every rumor starts with a grain of truth. You know what I mean? And so you've got people that are advocates for Trump or against Trump, or for Biden or against Biden, or they have a very clear stance on abortion, or they have a very clear stance on whether we should protest. They might even be telling their students they should not only go vote, but who to vote for.
Correct.
And there are cases of this that have been documented. It's in the news. Some of these teachers have been fired, reprimanded.
Yeah.
The problem is that the media takes those and runs with it. And if you're in a vacuum, if you're in an echo chamber on Facebook or something like that, you're only getting that information. You're not getting the whole story.
Correct.
So, yeah, most of us, we're just having the conversation. So, for example, in my class, if a student wants to discuss the Black Lives Matter movement, okay, I kind of feel the room. There's no way to avoid this conversation.
No.
But my job is to facilitate the discussion and show them how to discuss civilly and kind of play devil's advocate, so that we're looking at things from multiple perspectives. I am in the belief that truth is just truth. There's no one or two sides to true. But at the same time, there are situations where more than one thing can be true at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a really nuanced conversation. But we're stuck as educators in this situation of it's not nuanced. It's either all or nothing. And so just kind of feeling things out for history teachers and social studies across the board. And you've been looking at social media and, your own state. What's been the impact on history teachers and teachers that deal with these sorts of things?
Man, the way that the curriculum is being set up and designed, look, we don't want to offend anybody. That's not what we're in the industry to do. We're not here to offend anybody. And sadly, there are people who have taken offense to the way that some of our curriculum has been written. Not just in my state, but federally as well. And so we see, we are given at the beginning of the year a scope and a sequence, and these are the topics that you should be able to get through if you do it right throughout the entirety of the year. There are times where I look at scope and sequence and there's things that are left out, or, important things that are glanced over prior to teaching something else.
Sure.
And what I'm seeing is a lot of the super negative things that have happened in history being removed. For example, you look at the Roman Empire, and one of the most grotesque emperors that they ever had to deal with was a gentleman by the name of Caligula. The things that he did were just deplorable, but he did do things for the Roman Empire that did help put them on a path to move forward with their conquering and everything that they were doing at the time. We don't talk about him. We don't talk about things that could be viewed as controversial in any way, shape, or form. I'll be honest with you. I had to make up my own stuff about Cleopatra. I had to go out and find the research on her because she's not in a lot of the history books. We talk about, Cleopatra, one of the, the final female queen of Egypt before the fall, but we don't go into who she was or anything to that matter. And
just not in the book at all. Just
no.
Cleopatra.
Not in the curriculum we use. She's not there. She's talked about for a page.
And that's insane because there's such a huge intersection between Egypt and Rome.
Mark Antony.
I mean,
anyone?
Mark Antony. Yeah, come on. I mean, whole TV shows have been books, movies, have been created based on just those relationships. And so, okay, so you said you created your own. How'd you navigate that? Like, what was your way to deal with that?
Go through. One of my biggest things is, I have books. I have books on Cleopatra. I have books on a lot of historical figures. So use books, use Encyclopedia Britannica, very, well researched sites and books to make sure that I'm giving the right information. And I made sure that we talk about certain things. Like, did I talk about Caligula? No, because that's something I don't. That's makes Ted Bundy look nice.
Yeah.
So we don't talk about that. But if a teacher is able to go out and do the research and find the facts that need to be delineated to the students to help them better understand a time period, then do it. Because to me, leaving out either pieces of an event, people involved in an event, or events altogether of a timeline can really skew the way that the history is being taught and not give a full picture to the students. And then we're doing them a complete disservice, because if they ever have a conversation with somebody who has actually done the research, they're not going to have the ground to stand on.
Right. And so I think you're given a good blueprint for teachers who are trying to reclaim this good, strong curriculum without losing their jobs. And it's just sticking to the facts.
Yes.
Do the research. And I think you're modeling something really important there. You're modeling, look, there is a truth that exists. And what you've got to do is sort through all the stuff, and you've got to get down to the real facts. And it's layered. Why was this removed? Why was this removed? Why was this added? Why do we have songs to cover this part of history, but there's no songs for this part? Why is this a cute little thing? Where do these fairy tales come from? I think we have a habit of romanticizing the dark parts of our past.
Yes.
And we talk about the antebellum South. That really is a romanticization of slavery.
Absolutely.
Let's just say it. They are romanticizing institutional slavery.
Absolutely.
And they say the glory of those days. What was glorious about it?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Exactly. And so you get into these discussions with people, but people weren't taught. So I went to school in the North. I grew up in Oregon, and I went to Oregon schools. You teach in the state of Washington.
Yep.
And I was taught all about slavery and the Civil War. And I was taught that the Civil War was about slavery. And I was not taught that there was anything good. Definitely was never taught that it was anything to do with states' rights. That
Nope.
never came up. I came to the South, and I see Confederate flags everywhere. Everywhere. I have been all over the South. I was stationed in Louisiana. I was stationed twice in Texas. I live in Texas. I lived in North Carolina. Family in Georgia. Trust me, there are Confederate flags everywhere.
Everywhere.
And I would talk to people, didn't matter, black, white, Latino, and they would say, some people would say, the Civil War was fought over civil rights. States' rights.
Right.
States' rights to have slaves.
Right.
Okay, but why? But no, but you have the statues of Confederate generals, and I'm on Fort Hood, named after a very prominent Confederate general.
Yes.
So there's a huge difference between the North and the South. A lot of times.
Absolutely.
So, for instance, in the state of Texas, we're dealing with a lot of books are being physically removed from our libraries. Textbooks are being taken out of schools in places like Florida, which is just exacerbating the problem in the teacher shortage, and we could go into all sorts of stuff. But what has been the experience up north? Are you dealing with that at the same time? I mean, I know everybody's talking about the indoctrination, but like, how bad is it up north?
It really depends on the area, at least in my state. Some states aren't as bad as others, or some areas aren't as bad as others out here. We're having books removed all the time. Why can't I think of his name right now? It'll come to me eventually, but there's a very prolific Native American author from Spokane, Washington, who wrote a book. What was it? The Diary of a Part-Time Indian.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar. Yep.
Fantastic book. Talks about life on a reservation, how hard it is for the indigenous people to be on a reservation, the expectations that were thrown at them and everything. I mean, just really kind of says, hey, American government, this is how bad you did us, right? Nope, that book was removed.
Ugh, jeez.
But with no real explanation as to why, right? It was pulled. And so we're seeing, I do see some of that here. And it's in a light that really sadly doesn't paint anyone but the teachers in a bad way, because the teachers are the one that it falls on to teach it.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem right there. Because, if I say, hey, the United States government took a lot of land from people, I don't know a good way to paint that.
No.
But what I was taught was a very patriotic spin on it. And what's being pushed down in the South, at least for sure, is a very patriotic view of history, right? So the Civil War romanticized, and when it comes to Native Americans, indigenous people being put on reservations, that was the government looking out for them. What? Hey, I don't understand the cognitive dissonance involved here. It's okay to say that something was bad if it was bad.
It is.
But it's not now if you're a teacher.
No, can't do it.
And that's the problem. And so down here in the South, a lot of our history teachers feel like they are completely handcuffed.
Absolutely. I feel it too. We're sitting there and we talk about this, I mean, let's put this into perspective. You had this Mediterranean country run at one point, formed as a republic, and then turned into a dictatorship. That man was eventually killed on the Senate floor by 22 of his brethren, including his best friend, and came back to Republic. And then all of a sudden, here they are running the gambit over Europe and taking over country after country after country and saying, you do what I do now. I can teach that. How is that any different than what happened in the 1700s? Why can't I teach that? Because it's the same exact thing. But
Yeah.
it's horrible if I teach that. Now, I get that it's horrible because it's highlighting the plight of the indigenous people and what they had to deal with. And I'm not indigenous. So there are some people who look at me and go, you don't know what it's like. And they're 100% right. I don't.
Sure.
But I can read the stories. I can read the texts that were written from both sides, from the Saxons and from the indigenous people that have been imprinted in history. And I can teach those and show how the two stories are completely different and how it was perceived from each group. Oh, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that at all. That's horrible. Why would you want to do that?
Yeah. That's a really interesting dichotomy. When it comes to that, it's teach the good side. Make America look good.
What's the good side?
Exactly. There is no good side. But then when somebody presents something that's negative in the political realm, what's the other side? Look, you can't have it both ways. You cannot say, over here, we're only going to show the good, but over here, you have to show the good and the bad.
Right.
Look, that's not how the world works. That just doesn't function that way.
And sadly, gone are the days where respectful conversations with differences of opinions are gone. Yeah, we can't have a difference of opinion.
It doesn't exist. No, and I hold responsible a lot of these algorithms on social media because you can just eliminate a person that disagrees with you. You can block them. You can say you're not interested, and you end up in this echo chamber of people who are saying the same things as you. You're all reading the same articles. You're all getting your information from the same place, but so's the other side. And so when you come together, and now it's completely binary. It's totally divided. When you come together, now it's, well, all your information is completely false because I haven't seen any of that.
Right.
Of course. Because you've excluded it from your realm.
Right.
You've knocked it out of your echo chamber. It's like people say all these protesters are un-American. Can we rewind? How was America formed?
Can we go to the First Amendment? And this is the problem this is the problem with why they say teachers are indoctrinating their students.
Yeah.
And the biggest reason behind that is because we as social studies teachers, and I'm probably going to get some flack for this, but we just speak the fact.
Just the facts.
I've said it over and over again. I read it. It's there. And I'm not even talking about the curriculum that has been watered down. I'm talking about, I go all the way back to the source, to one of the very first ever historians to have ever put pen to paper, basically. And I go all the way back to Greek historian Herodotus, who is responsible for a lot of ancient history being actually written down. That's just me, though. But it's
yeah.
Oh,
this
it's frustrating.
I heard a story once. There was this group of people. They traveled across an ocean, and they lived for a while in this land. They were still under the king from the other side, but after a while, that king started really taxing them a lot of money, right? And so they decided to rebel, and they rebelled, and so they rose up against that king, and they had a revolution. All the while holding slaves. That was America, folks.
Season 2, episode 5, topic written down. I'll tell you, from a history
indoctrination, if I say that.
It is. And the the sad thing is
Ridiculous.
we just miss out on these students miss out on so much historical fun because I'm sorry, history is fun. Um, and they miss out on it because it's one sided.
Yeah.
It's we if you believe teachers are indoctrinating your students, number one, fight for your students. 100% all day, every
Yeah,
day. Please do.
absolutely.
Talk to your teacher first, respectfully. Then go up the ladder. That's what we can do. If you think that there is a disservice being done to your students, please know it's not the teacher. The teacher's just doing what they're being told to do.
Yep.
Go to the people who tell them what to do. Don't even go to the administrator, because the administrator in the building is only doing what the administrators at the head office are being told to do. And it's just that, the pile rolls downhill and teachers are, in the adult line of succession, the last person at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah, we're underneath that pile, that's for sure. I think we've painted a pretty bleak picture. Not that we intended to,
No.
but if you're getting ready to come in, you're a teacher about to graduate your certification program, or you're a person getting ready to go into college and you want to be a teacher, and you're listening to the show, you're thinking to yourself, okay, this is bleak. But at the same time, we're still in education because we still believe in it. So what do you say to those people looking to join the education field? What's your advice? What's your encouragement for them?
Come in passionate about what you want to do. Teaching should not be a job. Teaching's a lifestyle. And you have fun in a lifestyle. You want it to be what you want it to be. Yeah, you're going to run into hoops. You're going to hit obstacles. You're going to be faced with things that you probably didn't think you'd ever see coming. But at the end of the day, they're only going to strengthen your resolve as a teacher as you're able to get through them if you come in with passion for what it is that you're going to do. Don't let it get in your way. We see far too many teachers burning out way too early, and I fear that part of it is because they've allowed obstacles to get in their way and take away their joy of teaching. It's not going to be easy. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But if you go in every morning with excitement or copious amounts of caffeine and excitement, and then leave at the end of the day, you're going to have fun. And always remember it when it's hard, why you're doing it, because this is something you've wanted to do. It's fun for you. You're passionate about it and really love it. It's not a job. It's your life and it's fun, or at least it really should be.
Incredibly well spoken. I will make no effort to add to that. That was some fantastic advice right there, sir. And I applaud you.
Thank you.
And so for those of you listening, here at Education Reclaimed, we're about reclaiming what we can. And we certainly stand, I think you've heard us say clearly, we stand on the side of just teach the curriculum, love those kids. We're not here to be their parents. We're going to teach them the truth, but we're going to stick to the facts. And that's our push. We're just trying to show that there is no agenda other than helping these kids be successful in the world with the skills that we know they need. And part of that is understanding our history so we don't repeat the mistakes of the past, and being able to use the skills you acquire in school to find those facts and to articulate your position clearly. And that's all we want. And that's kind of my takeaway, Brett. And what I've got from this episode is that you're one of those teachers that is just passionate about what you do, and that you're going to stay on the firing line, so to speak, because you believe it's worth it.
Absolutely. 100%.
All right, folks, we are excited for our next episode. It's been my great pleasure and honor to interview the Mr. Colley, who you're about to leave and go follow on TikTok right now. And we will see you next time on Education Reclaimed.
Thanks a lot, Chad. And folks, we'll catch you later.
Hey, Brett and I really appreciate you hanging out with us today. We hope this is helpful for you. We hope it helps you reclaim your passion for education one breath at a time. You can find more information about us, the show notes, and some additional resources at educationreclaimed.com.